Welcome to Black and Gold Digital Edition, a behind-the-scenes look at your Pittsburgh Steelers.
Hi, and welcome to Week 5 of our digital show. I'm Jay Pushkar alongside Mike Fenner and Kent Urbanski. And gentlemen, Steelers had an unexpected bye week in week number 4 as the Tennessee Titans continue to struggle with the COVID-19 pandemic down in Nashville. And first and foremost, how did the Steelers handle that news? Because they were working all week long, all the way up till Thursday when they finally got the news that that game was canceled. I think they've been handling it very professionally, and they're just going about their business and getting ready for at least the Eagles coming up on Sunday.
Yeah, I would say there's a level of frustration, no doubt. It's hard not to, have that come out because they're extremely disappointed that with the prospect of, 13 consecutive games now. I think there's some of that's going to still linger, but you just have to do your best to try and put that into the game plan and just say, hey, we got to go out here, come out strong, and take advantage of what they could in terms of getting that rest. Deontay Johnson coming back from the concussion protocol is one of the few silver linings in this situation, and a guy that could help them even more in the passing attack. He already has been a factor, but getting him back, that's probably the one silver lining you take out of this.
Ken, it's such a juggling act for the line of work that we do too, trying to produce a show and try to get content, and for the players, it was just as crazy for them last week.
Well, sure. Because this was kind of a forced bye week for them, so they had to, adjust their schedules and what they do. And, I don't want to say they had to kind of dial things back a little bit, and they got some extra days off that they probably didn't need to have right at this point in the season, but really they didn't have a choice. So they had to handle it in a professional manner. I know a lot of the players expressed their dislike with what happened, but it's out of their hands and have to let the league take care of it.
And you got to just keep your fingers crossed that this doesn't linger, because that game has been rescheduled for the end of the month, October 25th. And right now, the Titans are still dealing with those issues, so we'll just have to wait and see how that all plays out. Let's move forward now as the Eagles are coming into town, and Philadelphia coming off a huge victory on the road at San Francisco on Sunday Night Football. Steelers got to be licking their chops that at least they're going to get the game in, and their fans going to be in Heinz Field. 5,500 are expected to at least be permitted in. It's got to be exciting for the Steelers going into Sunday.
Well, yeah. I don't know how much the fans are really going to make a difference in this. It's going to seem like, 5,000 fans is not a lot.
It's going to be like a high school game at Heinz Field.
Yeah, when you have a capacity of 68,000, something like that, 70,000. So, but I'm sure for players that will have some family members being allowed to be in attendance at the game, that'll give them a level of some sort of normalcy to their week and to game time. So I'm looking forward to seeing them actually play after having a forced week off, like I keep saying. But that's exactly what it was, and I'm sure that the players themselves are ready to go. I think Cam Hayward even said they're a hungry team right now, so I wouldn't want to be the Philadelphia Eagles.
And Mike, you did a story earlier in the week about even Ben Roethlisberger saying he's excited for his kids and his family to be able to finally go to the venue and watch Dad play. And it's got to be just a little bit of a boost for this team as they get ready to kind of restart that momentum that they had going for the first 3 weeks of the season.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I think the family factor will get some of these players energized, but I think it's going to have more of an impact than people expect, because even, we've seen some small crowds, like for instance, Denver had just friends and family, intimate family members, but I think with even a few thousand, it's going to make more of an impact than people might expect. I know some of the college football venues have already done a little bit more with like 25%, and you're seeing about 16,000 in those crowds at some of those SEC games. And, listening to some of those guys talk about it, they seem to think like, hey, this is a lot better than even a couple hundred. There's still some element there that having some of that noise, it'll make it feel more natural. But obviously, you'd like to have the full 70,000 effect, and one of the great advantages in the NFL at Heinz Field. But I think the crowd will have a bigger impact than we expect, especially for the defense, hopefully.
I'm just wondering who in the 500 level is going to start the wave.
Is it this variety, or is it the actual wave around the stadium? Well, one thing is for sure, if you have only 5,500 fans, if you're not playing good football, you're going to hear about it regardless of where these fans are going to be seated at Heinz Field. And at least it's going to be encouraging to see in the next couple of weeks if those numbers can even increase as we continue fighting that pandemic. X's and O's, guys, what do you like about the way the Steelers are going into this matchup? This is an Eagles team that's been so banged up throughout the first month of the season, yet they found a way to win at San Francisco last week. Kent, what do you think?
Yeah, they're banged up, and the Steelers are going to be healthy. So, and yeah, they had a good showing out there on the West Coast, but they're coming back from the West Coast too.
Right.
So that takes a lot out of a team, you know. So I'm expecting the. I don't think it's going to be. The Steelers don't really blow people out, but I'm looking for a game where they kind of do that, you know. So I'm hoping that they impose their will here. You know, Carson Wentz is a type of quarterback that's going to be not as mobile as a lot of the others that they've seen, and they're going to be able to get after them and shut them down a little bit. One of the guys I really like on that defense that's hasn't been talked about too much is Tyson Alalou. He's having a great year so far. And I'm just looking for that guy to plug that middle up and help that team, you know, put that pass rush on Wentz.
And Mike, it's so cliche about trying to get off to a fast start, get a good thing going in the first quarter, but is that really true in this matchup? Because the Steelers didn't have that game last week, and, you know, on paper, they should really take care of business in this one.
Yeah, I would expect that they need to get off to a big start and that they should. And one of the matchups that you talked with Tim Benz about was the tight end play and how that's kind of a vulnerability of the Eagles defense in an area where maybe Pittsburgh could expose them. So maybe look to an Eric Ebron, a Vance McDonald, guys like that to try and make big plays. Ebron's kind of gotten more involved in the offense little by little as the season's gone on. He's got a touchdown catch, and we'll see if they can kind of, you know, expose them over the middle of the field and beat those linebackers on some one-on-one matchups and try to get the ball to a guy like Ebron. Even though we've seen a lot of the receivers, you know, the ball's been spread around to a lot of different guys. That could be a matchup that I liked what Tim had to say about that in terms of, I mean, obviously George Kittle is out of this world in terms of one of the best tight ends in football that we've ever seen really in the modern game, but I think Pittsburgh could still take advantage of that matchup, and that's an area that Ben Roethlisberger has really been big in as well over the years.
All right, guys, thanks for the time. Really appreciate it. Once again, for Jay Pushkar and Mike Fenner and Ken Urbanski, thanks for tuning in. We'll talk to you next week.
Thanks for watching. Join us again next week for Black and Gold Digital Edition.